podcasters are up on the chopping block for cancellation this week because they decided to tell a joke about none other than Greta Thunberg on their podcast.
How dare you!
I guess we can add Saint Greta to the list of things that you're apparently not able to joke about anymore. And with that being said, let's listen to the joke and see what we think.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Boy, is it a tough time to be a podcaster or anybody who's creating content these days, especially if you have a woke audience. And with that being said, we have to talk about Drew and Enya of Emergency Intercom. I gotta say, I've been a fan of Drew and Enya for quite some time. I used to listen to them when I was a wee lad in high school. I loved Enya, I loved Drew, I loved their comedy, I loved following their lifestyle and their friend group in LA. And now they have a podcast titled Emergency Intercom, and it's on the chopping block because on their most recent episode, they decided to talk about none other than Greta Thunberg, and they made a joke about Greta Thunberg falling off. She's sort of fallen into obscurity in her activism, and where is this girl at?
But what was I saying? Oh yeah, Greta Thunberg fell off. Bitches in the gutter. Her legacy being lesbian, and I shouldn't be up here. Is
the thing is
so perfectly what's wrong with everything in this world, because like she literally was that girl. She was like fighting for climate change.
Her saying she shouldn't be up there, like, you're right, you should be in school, and your parents kind of suck for not letting you just go to school and be fucking normal. Like, go to school, be normal, and then you can like. But poor girl, she was fighting for a cause that she felt so strong for.
I think she's still fighting for it, but in like 20 years she'll probably
fighting
be
where? Because I don't see her.
Wait, can she be president?
Can she? I think you have to be like a certain age, and you have to be born in the U.S. to be the president.
She was skipping class. Josiah said she didn't want to be in school. She did all that, like me faking sick to get out of class, me faking to be a climate change activist to skip class. Wait, that's low-key a method.
Me claiming to be a martyr for a cause after finding out about what's her name? The one
Casey
girl.
Anthony?
No, the one girl who she learned how to read and it was illegal, and she never. I guess she kind of fell off.
They're talking about Malala Yousafzai, by the way.
Malala.
See, actually, no, Malala low-key never fell off. Like, Malala is always that girl. Greta, you fell off because seriously, what the are you talking about? Like, we like don't like what?
No, I support everything. Don't get me wrong.
No, I do, but like, you know what I mean. Like, she literally was in school. She learned about Malala. She was like, wait, there's a method to the madness. I really fuck with sustainability. Let me just see if this will get me out of class. Yeah. And it works.
Skipping class by Netspin.
There you guys go. That's essentially the comments. Of course, they go on to talk about other things in this podcast, and their comments are lit up over that short little clip that I just showed you where they're talking about Greta Thunberg and Malala Yousafzai, and people are super upset, saying that Greta did not fall into obscurity. How dare you drag Greta's name through the mud when she's actually out there still working and still being an activist. I think at the moment right now, Greta has really chosen Palestine as her issue and her cause. So she is out there protesting and using her voice, and how dare these individuals say that she fell off. We're gonna read some comments and responses here in just a moment, but I wanna show you this edit that was made in response to this Emergency Intercom episode that really shows you how the people who are canceling Drew and Enya feel about what they said.
You know who else fell the off? You know who else fell off? Greta Thunberg. That bitch is in the gutters, bitch. Like, sorry, bitch. Like, literally.
Like, why didn't Loewe use her? But poor girl, she was fighting for a cause that she felt so strong for.
I think she's still fighting for it, but in like 20 years she'll probably
fighting where? Because I don't see her.
Stepping out of our comfort zones and demanding an end to this suffering is a question of basic humanity, and we call on everyone to do so.
Greta, you fell off because seriously, what the are you talking about? Like, we like don't like what?
Silence is complicity. You cannot be neutral in a genocide.
There you guys have it. People took this joke about Greta Thunberg really seriously. And this is interesting because Drew and Enya are obviously left-leaning in their politics. They even say while they're making these jokes, don't worry, I 100% agree with the issue she's talking about and the things that she's doing. They just happen to make a joke about how they're not seeing Greta Thunberg as much as they were before. It's not an indictment on Greta Thunberg or her activities or her politics or on any sort of activist movement that's happening in this current day and age. It was just a joke. And I gotta say, it's not the craziest thing in the world to be thinking or saying out loud, considering when Greta Thunberg was first on the scene, she was shoved down the throats of every single American who was watching the news, who was thinking about climate change, who was reading about climate change. She was a young kid, and because of that, she was thrust in front of us as the poster child for climate change. She was everywhere all at once. Now, a lot of people are saying the reason we're not seeing so much of Greta Thunberg these days is because she's chosen to shift from climate change to Palestine, and people don't want to have that message be highlighted for the world to see. But I have a feeling it has a lot more to do with the fact that Greta Thunberg has sort of aged out of interest when it comes to these movements. These people specifically like to focus on youth and young people like Greta Thunberg because it's more shocking and salacious to have somebody like her screaming and shouting and sharing this message than it is to have an adult version of Greta Thunberg doing the same thing. So yeah, I think we've established this was simply a joke. Drew and Enya still agree with the politics of the people who are slamming them in the comments right now. And even within the joke was a little bit of truth that maybe we can think about a little bit. But nonetheless, let's read some of the responses that Drew and Enya are getting for saying this on Emergency Intercom. They're gonna call me too woke, but Emergency Intercom is a documentary about people losing their common sense and empathy as they acquire more wealth. Finally, everyone hating on Emergency Intercom. I'm like not even being funny. Y'all need to cut that 14-hour screen time and sit in on some community college classes with how tone deaf this was. Like, the way y'all removed the Palestine fundraiser from your bio and then talk about activists falling off, money hungry and uneducated as Things are changing, yeah, for you guys. With your sponsorship money, go pay for a community college class. So out of touch with today's political climate and so out of touch with the everyday lives of normal people. The only things that fell off are you guys. I hate to be the friend that's too woke, but the reason Greta fell off is because she started protesting for Palestine and against imperialism and capitalism, and the liberal media couldn't use her as a poster child anymore without threatening their corporate backers. Or maybe they couldn't use her as a poster child because she's not a child anymore. I find it hard to even analyze this and offer any form of rebuttal to this because I know exactly what's going on and it doesn't even deserve rebuttal. These are people who are consistently looking for somebody to cancel and attack, and Drew and Enya just happen to be the two people for this very moment. They've said something that just sparks a little bit of outrage in an individual, and suddenly thousands of them are in the comments because they've been greenlit by somebody else criticizing them to do the very same thing and to go after these two individuals who are just trying to put out a funny podcast. You can tell this is just outrage porn, and people are getting off on responding to this in this specific way. And I know because as I read through the comments, there are hundreds of people who are leaving the exact same comment as the one before them and just enjoying the likes and responses that they are receiving from hating on these two individuals in tandem. Drew and Enya support the same politics as the people who are hating on them right now. They had a pro-Palestinian fundraiser going on their channel. So arguably, Drew and Enya have done more than any singular person who has commented on this YouTube video hating on them for making this comment about Greta Thunberg. And I think this actually points out something really interesting about the way that viewers view their relationship with content creators. You don't go and support these content creators so that they can be themselves, even though your initial investment into their content is because they were themselves. You are supporting these content creators because you want them to be like you. And the second they do something that isn't you like, or they tell a joke about Greta Thunberg, which is something you would never do, you try to yank your support away, or you try to cancel them and chop them down and beat them into submission. And I'm sure this will follow the same cycle as every single other cancellation, where Drew and Enya will come forward in their next episode and have to spend an hour talking about Greta Thunberg, even though they only spent 1 minute talking about her in the previous episode, and you guys still won't accept the apology. And I'll go ahead and state the obvious here. I hope that Drew and Enya don't apologize, although I believe they're going to. And that apology is not going to be accepted because these people don't actually want to go back and forth on the issue that they're bringing up. They want to beat you into submission so that they can live in a world of collectivist hive mind where everybody makes acceptable jokes and completely supports their politics, and they can just walk through the world with a million different thems, just talking at each other and saying the same talking points over and over again as they've already done in Drew and Enya's YouTube comments. And then of course, let's not leave out the the impact that being a successful YouTuber has on just the vastness of this response to a singular joke. There's this thing about like relatability core that I think people are coming to terms with when it comes to influencers. When Drew and Enya were small-time influencers who didn't have a lot of money or a lot of success, and they weren't working with a lot of big brands, people really loved them. And they grew this small little family online that becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And suddenly you can move out of your studio apartment into a 2-bedroom and then to a 3-bedroom. And that relatability core that initially drew people in with a lifestyle that they felt like they could relate to or that they were simultaneously living as they're watching you on YouTube, that dissipates. And while you may remain the same person personality-wise, now that you've reached this upper echelon of wealth that people feel like is unattainable for themselves, they're waiting to bring you down, to humble you. And they'll say things like me when I'm a rich influencer in LA with no self-awareness. Because really, what's driving the hatred towards Drew and Enya is not the fact that they made a joke about Greta Thunberg. It's the fact that they're successful and they made a joke about Greta Thunberg. People love a relatable influencer or TikToker or anybody who's online until the viewership that they get from being relatable makes them no longer relatable when it comes to the amount of money they make on the backs of people watching their videos. So if you don't want to fall into this trap as an influencer, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to cosplay still being low income even though you're getting 1 million views per episode to make people feel better about watching you? And I notice that maybe that is a little bit of what Drew and Enya do in their videos. When you look at their sets, which is pictured right here, I mean, that's pretty relatable. It's pretty bare bones. I mean, there's no great lighting or amazing cameras or anything like that. They're just sitting with, you know, a friend and they're filming this and speaking off the cuff. But even that was not enough to remain relatable enough to not be canceled, because they know that Drew and Enya are working with different clothing brands and Loewe, and they're traveling around and they're signing with different people and making money. That underlying enviousness, shall we call it, really drives a lot of the cancellation that they're currently experiencing, although nobody's going to want to admit that. And anyways, guys, there you have it. That's the drama with Emergency Intercom. I'm very curious to see how they're going to respond to this. This episode was released a little bit ago and still no response, no apology for the Greta Thunberg takedown, aka a joke, but we shall see what happens from here. Like I said, it is never a good day to be a podcaster with a woke audience, and I thank my lucky stars that that is not me. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know how you feel about this story. As always, if you disagree with anything I said in this video, duke it out, but do so respectfully. We encourage healthy debate on this channel. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.